Dear learners, now I will talk about a topic under the title of Concept of Sociology of Education. These sessions covers brief idea about society, meaning of education, sociological approaches to education, landmark developmental phases of educational sociology, how educational sociology was shifted to sociology of education, concept of sociology of education, then nature of sociology of education, and lastly scope of sociology of education. At the very beginning, we need to know about what is sociology. People living together are said to live in a society or a community. Simply, both have some common characteristics, such as a certain geographical territory and a feeling of belonging to the same kind of group. The difference between them depends on the extent to which the people are cautious of their social mode of life. According to A.K.C. Otway, 1962, clearly differentiated the stating a community is everybody, adults and children, social and non-social persons living in a certain territory where all share a mode of life, but not all are cautious of its organization or purpose. A society is a land of community or a part of a community whose members have become socially conscious of their mode of life and are united by a common set of aims and values. In the context of education, this distinction is highly necessary because children are members of the community but cannot be said to be members of the society until they are conscious of the way their society functions and of their rights and duties in it as full citizens. Now let us know about the science of society, that is sociology. What is sociology? The word sociology is a combination of Latin word socius, meaning companion or associate, and Greek word logos, meaning science or study. The etymological meaning of sociology is thus the study of companionship or study of social relations or science of society. The study of man in social context gave birth to a new discipline named sociology. The central concern of sociology is the social relationships of mankind. It also encompasses social structure and social institution, interaction of social groups, means of social control, social change, etc. The need of sociological approaches to education. The founding fathers of sociology, the French philosopher Auguste Comte, British philosopher Herbert Spencer, French social anthropologist Emile Durkheim, German political scientist Max Weber, and American professor of sociology Albion Small regarded education as a distinctively social phenomenon. Besides, education needs a sociological approach for its meaningfulness in social context because education is socially manifested, socially oriented and socially managed for maintenance of social order and fulfilling social as well as individual needs. One of the tasks of education is to prepare the children for full membership. Education is essentially social in character, in its origin and in its functions. Education is an activity, after all, which goes on in a society, and its aims and methods, medium, curriculum, role of teacher, etc. are formulated in tune with the nature of the society in which it takes place. Hence, the sociological approach to education has been highly necessitated to develop the child in such manner that he or she will be thought of in relation to his or her society and culture. Now, we will try to find out the relation between sociology and education. Actually, the nexus between sociology and education has given birth to educational sociology, sociology of education, and after all, sociological foundations of education as a whole. Now, sociology of education. What is meant by sociology of education? Today's sociology of education as a new discipline emerged out of educational sociology. We just point out the following landmark phases of the birth of educational sociology. Though E. George Payne is considered as the father of educational sociology, a number of social thinkers like Herbert Spencer, Max Weber, Carl Meehan, and Albion Woolbury, and a number of educators like William James and John Dewey showed interest in evolving such a new discipline. In the year of 1993, Dr. William T. Harris, United States Commissioner of Education, wrote, "No education is fundamental until it is based on sociology." In the year 1999, John Dewey's The School and Society exercised a significant impact on the social aspect of the teaching and learning. The first course under the name of educational sociology in the education of teachers was offered by Dr. Suzzallo in 1907 at Teachers College, Columbia University. Next, in the year of 1908, Walter R. Smith started a similar course in the Kansas State Normal College at Emporia. Then Charles L. Wood, Sociology and Modern Social Problems, 1910, was used as a text for educational sociology courses. Next, under the chairmanship of David Sleeden, a separate department for educational sociology was established in 1916 in the Columbia. In the year 1917, Walter R. Smith published the first textbook to incorporate the phrase educational sociology in its title, Introduction to Educational Sociology. Then E. George Payne, whom F. J. Brown called the father of educational sociology, established Department of Educational Sociology in the New York University. Payne and others established the National Society for the Study of Educational Society in the year 1923. Next, in the year 1927, under the editorship of E. George Payne, the Journal of Educational Sociology was started. This is the book written by Dr. W. R. Smith under the title An Introduction to Educational Sociology. This book was published as a or considered as a first textbook in the domain of educational sociology. Educational sociology, then we may concentrate on the rise and fall. That means the fall and decline. The educational sociology has thus emerged as a new discipline. Its phenomenal growth and popularity of the educational sociology came in the late 19th century and early 20th century. Soon, the mixed marriage between educationists and sociologists in the development of the so-called educational sociology broke up in the mid of the 20th century. Then we see there is a shift in nomenclature. Since the 1950s, with the symbolic changes in its nomenclature, sociology of education instead of educational sociology has mainly the result of the efforts of sociologists taking an interest in education as a field of study. By the 1950s, the number of colleges offering educational sociology as a course of study had dwindled considerably. In the course of time, educational sociology lost its weightage and slowly became historical phenomenon. Why sociologists and educationists became disillusioned? There were so many reasons behind their dissolution. Number one, sociologists began to view educational sociology as an applied field with narrow pragmatism, which was theoretically fragmented and devoid of research methods. On the other hand, educationists felt that the educational sociology promised too much with regard to the importance of education and that the grand claims of perfecting society were not being realized. That's why we have seen a birth of sociology of education. By the 1950s, the number of colleges offering educational sociology as a course of study had dwindled considerably. The rejuvenation of sociology of education since the 1950s has been mainly the result of the efforts of sociologists taking an interest in education as a field of study. The exit of educational sociology was officially marked 1963 when the Journal of Educational Sociology became Journal of Sociology of Education and when the Educational Sociology section of the American Sociological Association became its Sociology of Education section. The growing interest in the study of education in relation to society has given birth to educational sociology and sociology of education. Let us now try to capture the concept of sociology of education. Let us now try to define at first. Robert J. Stelkop, 1968, considers educational sociology as the application of the principles of sociology in studying the process of education within an educational institution. Sociology of education analyzes the sociological processes within an educational institution and has evolved from educational sociology. Then Ivor Morris, 1978, suggests that sociology of education studies education as a social institution and social processes within education and uses sociological concepts and theories. W. Taylor, 1966, has ascertained that the distinction between the two terms lies in their emphasis. According to him, the emphasis in educational sociology is on educational issues, whereas sociological problems are emphasized in sociology of education. Next, J. E. Jensen, 1967, maintains the similar distinction by treating the problems of educational sociology and sociology of education as derived from the field of education and sociology respectively. Considering the cited definitions, we can now say sociology of education studies education as a social institution and social processes within education and uses sociological concepts and theories. Sociology of education may be defined as the scientific analysis of the sociological processes and social patterns involved in the educational system. Now, I will try to differentiate the two terms with examples. The distinction in their approaches will be clear if we explain citing one instance in Indian context. In India, illiteracy among children and adults is a social problem. Child labor and poverty is the outcome of illiteracy. When this issue comes in forefront of educational enterprise, efforts at universalization of primary education, adult education, non-formal education and vocational education among children and adults. People are adopted. This is an instance of sociology of education. In India, educational problems like dropout are the effects of social inequality, poverty, and lack of awareness. This problem can be solved by implementing sociological theories and principles. Equality of opportunity, social equity, gender equity, social justice, etc. This is an instance of educational sociology. Now I will talk about the nature of sociology of education. Sociology of education treats the school as a social system. It deals with the social processes and patterns involved in the educational system. It analyzes the pattern of interaction between the school and other social groups. Then it studies school organization and the relation between school and social structure, especially social class, family, neighborhood. It studies the functional relationship between education and the other institutions of society such as the economy, the polity, religion, and technology. It also centers upon the study of social institutions and their roles in education. It studies systematically the fundamental factors of society like population, culture, religion, economy, technology, etc. and their educational implications. Sociology of education basically analyzes the social problems like illiteracy, unemployment, population, explosion, national disintegration, terrorism, religious fundamentalism, international conflict, erosion of values, child labor, child abuse, child delinquency, poverty, etc. with their educational implications. Now, I will talk about the scope of sociology of education. At first, we should know the meaning of scope. Scope basically deals with the areas which something deals with, related with. So, the scope of sociology of education means the areas which sociology of education is related with. It is concerned with educational aims, methods, institution, administration and curricula in relation to economic, religious, political, social and cultural forces of the society in which they function. It includes the study of relationship of education to the different aspects of social system, particularly social stratification, social mobility, social problems, polity, religions, etc. The systematic study of the fundamental factors of society like population, social communication, culture, religion, economy, technology, etc. and their educational bearing falls under the scope of sociology of education. Next, the new vistas of education like population education, economics of education, education for sustainable development, value education, peace education, sex education, educational technology, open and distance education, open schooling system, etc. are also studied by sociology of education. Next, the social problems, particularly in Indian context like illiteracy, unemployment, population explosion, national disintegration, terrorism, religious fundamentalism, international conflict, erosion of values, child labor, child abuse, child delinquency, poverty, etc. with their educational implications are also covered by sociology of education. Next, it envisages an analysis of the social structure within the school and the nature of school culture, teachers' role and their functions, qualities in the democratic setup or ideology of educational institution are also analyzed by sociology of education. The need for a sociological approach to education has emerged from the intimate relation between education and sociology. This nexus between them has given birth to educational sociology. Sociology of education and sociological foundations of education as a whole. Education is socially manifested, socially oriented, and socially managed for maintenance of social order and fulfilling social as well as individual needs. Education is essentially social in character in its origin and its functions. The necessity for studying education in relation to society has given birth to educational sociology and sociology of education. Sociology of education basically emerged in the 1950s due to mainly the result of the efforts of sociologists taking an interest in education as a field of study. Today, sociology of education is regarded as a legitimate part of the broader field of sociology. Now, we should remember some important areas such as how did the relation between sociology and education give birth to sociology of education as a new discipline? What are the landmark phases of development of the educational sociology? Next, why did sociologists and educationists become disillusioned with educational sociology in the 1950s? What are the subject matters of sociology of education? These are the important areas we must remember after understanding the whole scenario about sociology of education. Now, we try to solve some multiple choice question. Suppose, who is considered as the father of educational sociology? There are 4 choices. Among them, you have to pick out the best answer. F.J. Brown, E. George Payne. Third, Walter R. Smith, David Snedden. Which is the answer? You will have to pick out the best answer. Next, the journal. In which year the Journal of Educational Sociology became Journal of Sociology of Education? There are 4 items. Number 1, 1927, 1943, 1963, 1973. Third MCQ question. Sociology of education analyzes the sociological processes within an educational institution and has evolved from educational sociology, stated by Robert J. Stalkop, Ivor Morris, W. Taylor, G. E. Jensen. Now, try to answer briefly the following questions. Make difference between society and community. Then, what are the implications of sociological approach to education? Define the concept of sociology of education. State the nature and scope of sociology of education. How did sociology of education emerge from educational sociology? Is there any difference between educational sociology and sociology of education? If yes, explain. These are the references and suggested readings. Now, I will summarize our whole discussion one by one for gaining better understanding. Today, I have already discussed the brief idea about society, that is, what is meant by society, then sociology, then sociological approach to education, landmark developmental phases of educational sociology, how education sociology was shifted to sociology of education. Next, concept of sociology of education, and lastly, the nature and scope of sociology of education. We have to remember the meaning of society. Once again, I tell, the society means people living together are said to live in a society or a community. Basically, there is a difference between the two terms. এবং there Such type of difference depends on the extent to which the people are conscious of their social mode of life. Actually, Professor A.K.C. Otway nicely and clearly differentiated in the way a community is everybody, adults and children, social and non-social persons, living in a certain territory where all share a mode of life, but not all are conscious of its organization or purpose. So, a society is the kind of community whose members have become socially conscious of their mode of life and are united by a common set of aims and values. Now, once again, we recall what is sociology. Sociology is a study of or science of society. The study of man in social context gave birth to a new discipline named sociology. All of you know the central concern of sociology is the social relationships of mankind. Next, we see education needs a sociological approach or for its meaningfulness in social context, because there are so many reasons behind this explanation. Education is socially manifested, socially oriented, socially managed for maintenance of social order. All of you know, one of the tasks of education is to prepare the children for full membership within the society. Education is essentially social in character, in its origin and its function. That's why that is why education needs sociology. That means education needs sociological approach. Education needs sociological principles and theories of sociology in studying, in preparing our children in the society. We should recall the meaning of sociology of education. Sociology of education, actually, it has evolved through. Now we proceed towards the meaning of sociology of education. First of all, we should remember educational sociology actually was the precursor of sociology of education. Sociology of education basically came through sociology. Now we recall the meaning of sociology of education. We must remember the sociology of education is a newly emerged study of discipline came from educational sociology. We must point out the following landmark phases of the birth of educational sociology, such as in the year 1893, Dr. William T. Harris, United States Commissioner of Education, wrote, "No education is fundamental until it is based on sociology." Another landmark initiative started during that time in the year 1927 under the editorship of E. George Spain. The Journal of Educational Sociology was started. This is the first textbook under the title An Introduction to Educational Sociology, written by W. R. Smith in the year 1917. But next we see the fall of educational sociology. That means the decline of sociology, educational sociology, and the emergence of new subject, that is the sociology of education. The sociology of education has thus emerged as a new discipline during 1950s. Basically, the mixed relation between educationist and sociologist in the development of the so-called educational sociology broke up in the midst of 20th century.